straight off with It's Called Soccer. I really enjoyed the first show, watched it, it was great.
Mhm.
You already do CBS, Sky Sports, the overlap, stick to football, all of that. So, where does this fit in? And firstly, how did it come about as well?
Well, I mean, as most things, it starts probably me and Gary having a chat together. But Gary's instrumental is in the creation of the overlap, and then he's got us all involved. So it started from there. Really, I think he was probably looking at me on CBS and thinking he wants a bit of the American public, maybe. But no, he's no. I mean, listen, the podcast world has just exploded, hasn't it? Over the last, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 years or so. I mean, I had my own podcast a long time ago. Yeah, about 5 or 6 years ago, and then got into it, that stopped that. Now doing the stick to football, and now done this. And it's exciting. It's something a little bit different. Obviously, going to focus a lot more on the US, the national team, MLS there as well, but also, dipping into, the Premier League, as we know how big the Premier League is and how big is it around the world, especially in the US. And you can see that from the weekend as well with what's happened with the, NBC, with Rebecca's being heavily involved, isn't it? That I'm not sure what the exact word is for it. They call it. What is it called there when they have this in America where all the fans come with the NBC?
Yeah, it's like Premier League mornings, like a fan zone or something.
Yeah. So I mean, I think they have 3 or 4 of them a season. So you show how big, the Premier League is in the States. So yeah, I think it's we can touch on that because listen, we keep saying about how much the game's growing over there, and I don't think it's probably ever going to grow at a better pace in the next few years, especially with what's coming in in a couple of years in the World Cup, which I'm really looking forward to. I think it'll be amazing.
Yeah, and obviously you did the first episode in your bar, Carragher's bar. I've been there.
Yeah, of course. Where else could you go? But no better place.
It's great. I heard Gary saying about, I think he was thinking from an English perspective about, you couldn't be a Manchester United fan and coming here. I mean, I've been in there on Champions League nights and it's full of like Man City, Real Madrid. It's not like that in America, so it works. I think it's great. I just want.
It does. I mean, it's probably not as tribal over there as it probably is in this country. I mean, you can see the tribalism more than most. I can see it on social media today with Man City and Arsenal fans. And it's just nice to not be have your own club involved in it, just sitting back smiling. But no, the bar is that, and you'll know that better than most when you go in there, or other parts of America as well. The supporters can probably mix a lot more freely than they would do in this country, and that's nice. That's a good thing. And yeah, I've told Gary he and a few Manchester United supporters are welcome. Not everyone, but we'll allow a few in. And it looks like the shirt that he was given, I'm not sure where it's going to go up, but if I had my way, I think the toilet's the obvious place. Yeah. I think it's got to go in there, hasn't it?
I was just wondering how, I think you said you've owned that for like over 10 years now. I just wondered, where did the idea come for opening that and how did that all happen?
Well, the idea came from I mean, I say I'm the owner. My name's associated with it. I wouldn't class myself as the owner. That's down to Brian, big Irish Liverpool fan who was living in New York and had not just a reputation. He had sort of 4 or 5 bars already in New York, and I think he must have just got talking to his dad after the game, and he'd come over to watch Liverpool, or he'd see me dad in the pub. But basically, they built a connection up over a few months through somebody else. And then he asked about the idea of, naming a bar, Carragher's in New York. So, I mean, it's not something normally that a lad from Bootle growing up gets, a bar named after him in New York. So it was always going to be he was always going to get the green light. And, it's gone from there. But listen, I mean, when you look at the bar and I've tried to help in terms of sending memorabilia over there on different bits and bobs and popping over once or twice a year. But, the credit to, the staff and Brian, what they've, made the bar what it is, really, it's all down to them.
Well, it seems to be doing well. It's always packed whenever I go in there. So I think there's 10.
Well, it helps that Liverpool are doing well or have done well over the last few years. So hopefully Arne Slot can continue the ride that we've all been on with Jurgen Klopp, because that's a massive help, especially the Champions League nights, because we know at the time difference, it's probably a lot easier to get in there than watching Premier League football as well. So I think the European nights are a big help.
Yeah, I went to the Arsenal-Liverpool game in Philadelphia pre-season. And I mean, I think it was a sellout. It was like 60,000 and they're all from the local area. So, I mean, it's definitely growing in the US. So I think you're definitely going to tackle that well. While we're on the US, I know you spoke about it in the first episode, so I don't want to go too much into it because it's already been covered. But you said 50 to 100 years for the US to win a World Cup, which controversially.
How did that go down?
I think they all know it. They want to believe that. They're quite a positive fan base compared to England, where we lose a game and suddenly Southgate's got to go and this player's not good enough. But I just wondered. You said you think he'll go after the World Cup as well. I mean, realistically, he's been given a target, like quarterfinals. Maybe he's been told to say that. But how do you think he's going to get on? Do you think it's going to be like a stepping stone for the US to leave them after, or do you think it's going to be a tough job? I think.
I just think. I think America with Pochettino are more than capable of getting to the quarterfinals. I do believe that. I think you need a little bit of luck in any knockout competition with the draw. I mean, sometimes you think, well, okay, you know what it's like when the draw comes out. You say, okay, we'll finish top of our group and we'll play the second in this group. But there's always a few funny results where a big team finishes second, or you think you're going to finish second, but you actually finish first in your group and you get someone else who you're not quite expecting. And sometimes that can fall for you. And sometimes it can go against you. And I think that's the little bit of luck that you need. And actually, I think how the US fared in the last World Cup, I thought they did pretty well. Obviously, you come up against the Netherlands, and that's always a game, probably 7 or 8 times out of 10. The Netherlands are going to beat the US, unfortunately, for the US public and the players and coaches. But if you get a more favourable draw there, then you get to the quarterfinal. I think that's what it all rides on. And then when you get to the quarterfinal, who knows what could happen? You take someone to the wire, maybe go through on a penalty shootout, something like that. Because once you get to the last stage, the quality will definitely be up a level. Will Pochettino stay after 2 years? I think the problem is you want him to be successful. But the more successful he is, I would say the less chance he has of God of being there for another 2 years, if I'm being totally honest. So I think he's come away from the club game. He's going into international football. He does a great job in that World Cup. He gets to the quarters, he gets to the semis. Everyone thinks he's amazing. Everyone's talking about him. And then before you know it, a big team in the Premier League or a big team in Spain, in La Liga, want him to manage him. And it's not easy then. Now, maybe the emotional attachment he may have grew over those couple of years, and he feels like a real sort of connection with the country, with the World Cup being in the home country, which always helps, of course, and that may be something to entice him. But I think if it goes really well, I would imagine some of the biggest clubs in Europe will be even back on their radar again.
Yeah, especially because they're a young group as well. If you can show that he can, coach them and get them playing, they have been. Yeah, it'll definitely be a target for sure.
Yeah.
On the women's side as well, I know obviously great success with the English women's team. Do you think the fact Emma Hayes has gone, do you think they've maybe missed out there? Because, obviously there's a lot of growing teams in the women's game, but there's really like a core 6. Letting Emma Hayes go to coach a direct rival when it comes to internationals, do you think England may regret that?
I think they possibly will. I think the US women's team have always been one of the strongest nations. So, you bring in Emma Hayes, and Emma Hayes for herself going in there, because I know she had not a best experience, I think, in the over there beforehand, maybe in the club game. So she wanted to maybe, show herself, her true self, if you like. Because for us in this country, if you were asked to name a coach from the women's league, or in our country, I think 99 people out of 100 mention Emma Hayes. She's almost the most high profile, very successful at Chelsea, and obviously with Serena at the helm, not English. And my views on certainly our country having foreign managers, I always feel a nation of the size, the stature, the history of us, we should have English coaches for the men and the women's game. But it's not everyone feels like that, and that's fine. But to see Emma Hayes with the United States, I think I'd love to see her one day, managing the Lionesses. I really would like to see that. But she's already made a really successful start to a new job, and I'm sure that will continue.
Moving on to Liverpool now, probably a more comfortable topic for both of us. Have you met Arne Slot yet?
Yes, I interviewed Arne Slot before his first home game for Sky Sports, and that was used in the build up to the game. And to be honest, it's gone everywhere on social media, that interview, because of the answers that Arne Slot gave gave me, which I think people found really interesting, in terms of the tactical side of the game, of how he sets up slightly different from what I'd seen before in the position of the fullback. So I think it was a really good insight, not just for viewers, for myself as well, and the job that I do as an analyst looking at games and trying to work out why teams do certain things. So it was a real eye-opener, and I think it gave me an insight into what type of manager he is. I think there's almost feels like there's a plan every game. There's a real detail getting given to the players, maybe more than what they had in the past. And that's not a criticism of what gone before. We know how great that was. It's just different. Different managers, coaches, they do slightly different things. And sometimes you need that as a player as well. Those players had Jurgen Klopp for so long. So just a slightly different voice, a different way of doing things, and just really get the juices flowing again. So, no, I think he's made a brilliant start, and it was great for me to talk to him. And hopefully I'll get the opportunity again.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you your first impressions. You've covered that great. I appreciate it. I just wondered, have you been in contact with Stevie at all? I wondered what Gerard's, thoughts on Arne Slot and Liverpool as a whole are at the moment, because we don't really hear from him over in Saudi. So
yeah, no, not at all. No, not really. I mean, my contact with Stevie is not that frequent, really, since he's gone to Saudi. I keep abreast with the results that he's getting and the odd text here and there, but obviously you've got he's that far away. It's out of sight, out of mind. That's the saying, and it bears true, really. So I try and catch him on his own. We try and get together, go for something to eat, chew the fat, obviously, about Liverpool. But he'll be well aware of what's going on in Liverpool. I'm sure he'll be excited with the start that they've made, and his view on the manager, I don't think will be any different to what most people's are in Liverpool right now. That he's made a brilliant start. A little hiccup against Nottingham Forest that just knocked us all for 6 a little bit. But I think winning the San Siro was a huge result for the manager, because of the history of Liverpool in Europe, and all our other foreign managers we've had before have all won a European trophy. So I think to have your first game away in the San Siro on the back of the defeat to Forest, going 1-0 down after 5 or 10 minutes, I think that was a big result, for the managers to give that real belief to Liverpool supporters. They love nothing more than following their team home and abroad.
Yeah, no, it's been other than the one result, it's been a great start. I mean, 4 wins out of 5, you can't complain too much. He's had a lot to deal with as well. I think it's better than what most fans maybe would have expected under a new manager. It could have been a lot more sloppy. So I think it's good. You said about how he's a little bit different than Klopp. Obviously, he would be. Trent was saying about how he's supportive, but he also picks out his flaws, and it's making him a better player. The elephant in the room at Liverpool now is Trent, is Salah, is Van Dijk. They had a quiet summer with just Chiesa and Marmadashvili. I've really struggled with his name, but we'll get there.
The keeper will do.
People do. Do you think, I mean, there's a lot of talk about his future. Do you think they will all re-sign? And if there's a priority for which one? I mean, it's such a hard one because they're all world-class players. But
well, the priority is Trent. That's not even, that for me is not even a question or a debate. That the most important person to sign is Trent, just because of the age factor and how much longevity you'll get out of him as a player, as opposed to the other two. I was very confident they would all sign at the end of last season in the summer. I'm not so sure now, just because I'm thinking, well, what is the weight? Really, if I'm being totally honest, I'll look at it and think, well, okay, what are they still arguing, negotiating over money, or maybe for Mo and Virgil, would there be a length of contract? Would the club be offering 1? Would they be wanting 3 or 2? Or the club offering 2, they want 3? That type of thing. With Trent, I don't really know what the hold-up would be. I'm sure Liverpool are going to make him one of the highest paid players, or maybe the highest paid player at the club, and in the Premier League, and that's where he should be. He's that great talent, and it's just whether he's looking at pastures new. Maybe, because I'm sure top clubs would be sniffing around him. I think with the other two, yes, they could leave on a free and go somewhere else, but I think it'd be difficult to go to many places better than Liverpool in terms of chances of winning the Champions League right now. I don't think, I might be wrong, but I don't think sort of Real Madrid would maybe be looking at Salah or Van Dijk. Not because they're not good enough, but just their age.
I think that ship sailed now, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I would think so. But I would imagine they're looking at Trent. There's been rumours of that. So, but yeah, I'm less confident. Well, listen, you have to be less confident the longer it goes on. you know, because the club want nothing more than to announce that these 3 players have signed, or certainly Trent has. You know, no one wants this over your head or dragging on. So we'll, the longer it goes, the less confident I will be.
So we had this situation a while back with, I think it was obviously Salah was the main one, and then I think Bobby and Sadio were also reaching the end of their deals, and it kind of it always takes away. And I mean, it's purely because of his own high standards. Salah started the season amazingly. Last few games, Nottingham Forest included, kind of has been a bit absent. And I just wondered, you know, do you think this whole contract saga may be playing on that, or is it just, you know, he's allowed a few off games? I mean, he's amazing most of the time.
Yeah, I don't think it'll have anything to do with the contract. I mean, we should never be surprised with Salah scoring goals or having a few games where he's not at his best, because that has been the journey of Mo Salah since he's come to Liverpool. You know, he's all about the goal. He's always about, you know, it almost feels like if he scores, people think he's been amazing. And if he doesn't, you know, we know what happens with Mo. If he doesn't score in the first hour, a little bit of frustration kicks in. He probably takes shots on then that he maybe normally pass in the first half. You know, that's just the normal. That is Mo. So I don't ever sort of query his form too much. Maybe a little bit. The first time at the end of last season, when I actually think he was carrying an injury. And what you're talking about, how he's been the last couple of games, probably went on for like a few weeks and months, and that wasn't normal for Mo. But I think a lot of that was down to the injury picked up in the African Nations Cup. So I don't really get involved too much in the talk of Mo Salah. Is he in form or out of form, really? Because that's Mo. He'll end up scoring 4 in 4 games, and then he'll have another couple of quiet games, and then he'll do it again. And that's just the way he is. But his standards are so high. That's why we look at him and question him if he's had a couple of games where he's not at his best. And the couple of games where you say that, I mean, he hit the bar twice in Milan, didn't he?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You know, if another attacking player at the bar twice, we'd be saying, oh, he's looking like he's back in form. He's not far away from a goal, this fella. You know, if that was Nunez or Gakpo or someone, we'd probably using a different type of terminology. But they're the standards Mo's set.
You say Nunez there, he's a bit of an interesting one. I mean, Liverpool fans absolutely adore him. There's something about him, his aura, that just he seems like a proper cult hero as well as being a good player. He only started, I think, for the first time on the weekend against Forest. I just wondered where he ranks within Slot, like system, because, you know, Jota started the season, he gave Darwin the nod. I just wondered, you know, where he fits in, because it doesn't look like he's getting as much stuff like playing time as he maybe should do.
I think we're going to have to get used to Slot as a manager picking teams. It looks to me early on that once a team's doing well, it's going to take a lot for someone to get shifted out of that team and for someone to come in. And what told me that was the fact that he played the same team after the international break against Nottingham Forest. It's almost like, right, this is my team at the moment. And he made a couple of changes after Milan, as you'd expect from a midweek European away game. But it wasn't like 4 or 5 changes that you might see a Jurgen Klopp make or maybe a Pep make. So it looks like when he's got his team, it's steady. So I think Darwin wasn't left out for Jota. I just think Jota was back earlier and almost got that position before. He got first dibs, if you like, at the centre-forward position. And I think if Darwin stays in for a couple of games and is playing well, I think it'll be his share. So I don't think it's a case of Arne Slot. We all know what his best 11 is. I think whoever's playing well and is in the team at the time, I think it'll take a lot to take the shirt off him, because I don't think he's going to rotate as much as we've seen before. I think we'll probably have to get used to that a little bit. And the players will have to get used to that as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a good way to be. You know, earn your place and you're not going to want to lose it. So I kind of like how ruthless he's been, to be honest. And a player playing alongside Darwin and obviously scoring a brace was Luis Diaz. Weird one in the summer. He was linked loosely with Barcelona. There was some stuff with his father coming out and saying about how, you know, it'd be his dream to play there one day. So I feel like that might be a saga that comes back up. But he started the season really well also. Do you think he's one that Liverpool maybe have to worry about leaving? Or do you think he'll be fine staying put for a while?
No, I think he'll be fine staying put. I think he was definitely the one player that Liverpool were maybe, or even, you know, when I think about Liverpool, I'm thinking, well, where can we improve? Luis Diaz was a player who, he came in, did really well. He got a couple of knee injuries and he hadn't quite seen the same player in the last 18 months. And you were thinking, okay, we need maybe a little bit of an upgrade there. That would have been certainly what I was thinking over the summer. And there was talk of, there was obviously the Andy Gordon link with Newcastle. And Luis Diaz, I think, had a really good summer for Colombia. And he's been one of the best players in the Premier League, I think, at the start of the season. And when you've got a Luis Diaz in that form, you're keeping him and you're not looking to bring anyone else in. That's just a fact. I just think those standards have dropped. Not standards, just as levels have dropped a little bit. And that may have been to do with the injury. It may be to do with this. A new manager just getting a little bit extra out of someone. That can happen. We've seen that with Gravenberch. But the Luis Diaz I'm seeing right now, I'd be desperate for him to sign a new contract. But we should remember we're only 5 games into the season. He's got to keep this going. If Liverpool want to get back to winning the Champions League and the Premier League, they need their attacking players at the level of what sort of Mo Salah and Luis Diaz have been in these first sort of 5 or 6 games. That's what Mo Salah and Sadio Mane and Bobby Firmino were doing sort of for years. So it's a great start for Diaz. We need to keep this going, keep this level up, and then you'd be desperate for him to sign a new contract.
I think that question more comes from, like previous events, like Spanish, South American players always looking to go to like Barcelona, Real Madrid. It's always a constant worry being a Liverpool fan of Coutinho, Suarez.
Yeah, I get that. I don't think it's as strong now. I think with the stands and where Liverpool, we as a club are a lot better than we were in the past. And I don't think the sort of, Barcelona have got a few problems financially, as we know right now, Real Madrid and Real Madrid. But yeah, I don't worry about that factor as much these days as when I was a player.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. On future signings, I know there was, is it Zubimendi, how you say his name? The Spanish midfielder linked him all summer. Didn't come through. Apparently, he said that he just wanted to stay in Spain, which is his prerogative. There's been loose reports, not sure how much I'll buy it, because the Spanish media is very interesting, saying that he now regrets it already with Sociedad with 1 win in 6, and that he's, wants Liverpool to come back in for him. Do you think they should now pass up on that because he's already said no? And Liverpool are a team with pride. They don't really conduct their business that way, where they keep chasing someone. And also with him not being signed, Gravenberch has become unbelievable in that midfield. Do you think they've sort of resolved that issue or need to strengthen it still?
Well, we'll go back to your first question. I would, the fact that the lad said no to Liverpool, I thought was a strange choice on his behalf, but I could understand because he was a local boy and his family and the club maybe putting pressure on him, and he had maybe a nice way of life there with his family. And there were the reports that came out. I mean, if I was in his position, I still would have moved to Liverpool, but I can get the family ties and the pull and the string, so I wouldn't be too critical of the lad for not coming. But also, if I was Liverpool and that opportunity was back on to get him in January, I'd do it. If that was the player the manager wanted, you do it. He's a quality player, and you're right, Gravenberch has come in and took that position and done brilliantly, but Gravenberch and Alex McAllister can't play every week, and they're our 2 midfield players, and behind them we've got Endo, who I think will move on at some stage. I would imagine that the manager would I'm not sure he's a typical type of Arne Slot central midfield player. You've got Curtis Jones there. So for me, I think we need 4 players for 2 positions. I would imagine Endo would move on if we brought another player in. And if that player is Zubimendi, I think you'd be cutting off your nose to spite your face if you say, oh, we're not going for him because he turned us down. There's reasons why he's turned us down. But I think at 25, Spanish international, that was the time to make that move to Liverpool, the Premier. And by the way, this is not a Liverpool thing. If it was Arsenal, if it was City, if it was Chelsea, whoever, that big move to the Premier League and playing in the Champions League and having a realistic chance of winning a Champions League, I can understand why, if those reports are right, that he's maybe regretted it, because those opportunities don't come around too often. But for me as a Liverpool fan, I would go back in for him if he was making noise that he wanted to come, because I do still think we need another player in there.
Do you think the change of manager might have impacted that? If Klopp was still there, he might have, signed straight away, or do you think that's harsh to say on Slot, seeing as he hadn't been really?
No, I don't think it was that. I mean, listen, you can't hide the fact that I think Jurgen Klopp's personality, as much as Liverpool Football Club as a name around the world, was a huge pull in terms of bringing players to the club. I do believe that. But over the next 3 or 4 years, we'll see that. If players continually turn down Liverpool, you'd maybe have to really dissect the reasons why. But from the information I've got is, basically the player agreed to come almost, and then just had a real change of heart at the last minute through,
issues at home, which, listen, that's, you know, people are professional footballers, but, you know, we've still got a home life, you've still got a way of living, you know, family members, mums, dads, wives, girlfriends, whatever it may be. So, you know, that is a big part of a player's life as well. And if he didn't feel right and didn't feel 100% comfortable, he's well within his rights to turn that down. But if that's changed, it wouldn't make one iota of a difference to me. It just means that we're getting the player that we wanted 4 months too late.
Just on the manager front there, I was thinking, you know, Trent spent his whole senior career with Klopp, and this is a massive transition for him. He spoke very highly, which is positive. I was just wondering, from your account, what was it like the first time? Was it Roy Evans you made your debut under, or is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was it like when a new manager came in, like for you in your position, that was completely new, you know, first new head coach or manager when you're a senior professional? I just wondered what the adaptation process was like.
Well, yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I had to adapt. I went from sort of, you know, the boot room to a Frenchman in Gerard Houllier coming in, who was part of, you know, France winning the World Cup. He was the technical director. He wasn't even coming in as a manager, really, or as a manager in his previous job. I don't think he'd been a manager for a few years. So the club took the plunge in a completely different direction. Then they brought in like a super coach in Valencia, who had great success in La Liga. And you know what? I embraced it. I embraced every change, and I just thought it was a great chance, an opportunity for me to learn. And I always seemed to do pretty well as soon as a new manager came in. You know, Gerard Houllier took a real shine to me, the same with Rafa Benitez. So I saw it as an opportunity. And to be honest, as a local player, and I don't know if Trent thinks like this or thinks the same as me, I didn't really have a bond with the manager as much as maybe other players did. It might be different with Trent, I suppose, because he had Jurgen Klopp for such a long time. Only had Roy Evans for like a couple of years. And I always, when people say to me, you know, playing for the manager, I never played for any manager. I played for the club. That's the way I saw it, especially as a local player. You know, I've been at the club since I was 9 years of age. So whoever the manager was, I was still going to give it everything. It wasn't a case of, you know, the manager would ever lose me. He probably never had me. You know, I was just, I went out every week, every day on the training pitch to give my best for Liverpool Football Club as a local player. So it didn't really affect me too much, managerial changes. I just wanted always what was best for the club.
That sounds like the problem with Man United at the moment. None of those players playing for the club.
Yeah, a long way to continue.
Yeah. Just one final question, because I don't want to keep you for too long, and it's still Liverpool relevant, but slightly different. Everton, I mean, in a dire situation at the moment. Today, news that they've secured new ownership, which is positive for them. The Liverpool fans I speak to from the city don't want Everton to go down, because it'll be horrible for the city and, you know, loved ones, etc. A new stadium. I assume you hope they stay up, but I just wondered your take on that whole. It's fun to laugh at them until it gets serious, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a great line. That it's fun. What is it? It's fun to laugh at them until it gets serious. Yeah, that's a great line. That's probably the best way to describe it. I think the city for most people. I would say probably 60-70% of Liverpoolians would rather Everton stay up. You know, and that's, you know, I love derby games. I grew up on derby games as a kid, playing in them, watching them now, analysing them. I absolutely love them. I adore them. And I would sorely miss them. And I think the Premier League would miss Everton as well. You know, it's been an ever-present, it's a huge football club. And, you know, in the northwest of England, we've got other ones in this part of the world. But there's fewer and fewer clubs from the north actually being in the Premier League. There's so many teams from the south now. You know, you think like Bournemouth and Brighton, these teams popping up. And I think it's really important that Everton, for this city as well, stay in the Premier League. I think it's something that, I know there's frustration with Everton about the fact that they don't compete anymore. And listen, that's been happening for a long time. But I think sometimes when you step back and you think, as a city, you know, we've got two huge football clubs. And if Everton are back on their feet and back where they belong, and sometimes where a fan thinks their team belong, other fans don't think that. You know, so if you speak to an Everton fan, they may say, we want to be back competing for trophies. I think that's a long way off. But I think Everton should always be a top 8 Premier League club. And sometimes when you step back from that, you go, 2 football clubs from our city are in the top 8 clubs in the Premier League, which is the biggest league in the world. It's not bad, that. You know, we're not the biggest of cities, or most affluent of cities. So if Everton can get back on the feet, for me, then easily a top 10 club, should be a top 8 club. And if they can get to there and then start competing in terms of trying to qualify for Europe, that's what Everton should be looking to do. What
West Ham have done over the last few years. You know, Europa League, Conference League, getting into competitions like that. And, you know, bringing in good players, exciting the fans, whatever. And the stadium they've got looks absolutely amazing from outside. You know, when I drive past in the city, and it's something for the Evertonians to be proud of, but also people in the city. It's an amazing sort of landmark, but it's going to be. It looks fantastic on the waterfront, and it's something that, especially Evertonians, but I think most people in the city, Reds included, not all of them, will be proud as well. So, you know, we're proud of our waterfront. It looks the part, really classy, and I think Everton Stadium is going to be a big part of that.
I think they'll stay out. There's something in Everton. They always seem to do
well,
it.
What I say about Everton is that the Real Madrids of relegation battles, they always find a way to get out of it. Real Madrid always find a way to win the Champions League, and Everton always find a way to get out of the relegation zone.
I guess we'll see. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And as I said,
cheers, Joe, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome for me. So yeah, appreciate it. And yeah, all the best with it. It's called soccer.
All right, and I'll see you in Carragher's bath.
Yeah, there's absolutely. I'm in there probably more than I'd like to admit. So
not a problem.